We're live.
Thank you. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Tremaine Wright, the chair of the Cannabis Control Board, and it's great to be here with all of you today. We want to say thank you to our hosts here at the Dormitory Authority. We appreciate you opening your doors and allowing us to come and gather for this meeting. So recognizing that we have a majority of our board members present, I'm pleased to call to order today's meeting of the Cannabis Control Board and to welcome all of you who are participating here in person, as well as via the live stream. I'd also like to note that board members Adam Perry and Jennifer Gilbert Jenkins are both joining us via live stream from locations open to the public as stated in the meeting notice. And board member Jessica Garcia is participating remotely from a private location due to extraordinary circumstances. As always, this meeting will be recorded and the transcript will be available to the public on the Office of Cannabis Management's website, cannabis.ny.gov. Live captioning in both English and Spanish is available for individuals viewing this live stream. But now we can move on. So today's meeting of the Cannabis Control Board meeting will be brief and focused on the following agenda items. A review and approval of the meeting minutes from the Cannabis Control Board meeting held on May 11th. Consideration of the amended limited partnership for the Social Equity Fund. Consideration of a resolution directing the Office of Cannabis Management to file for adoption certain emergency violations, hearings, and enforcement regulations. Consideration of a settlement agreement with Variscite New York 1 Incorporated and the Office of Cannabis Management. Today's meeting will not include any public comment, and then the board will adjourn. So let's turn to our first agenda item. The review and approval of the meeting minutes from the May 11th, 2023 Cannabis Control Board meeting. May I please have a motion to consider and approve the May 11th board meeting minutes? Moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
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 The motion to approve the May 11th, 2023 minutes carries. Next, let us consider the limited partnership agreement. Allow me to please introduce General Counsel Linda Baldwin to provide an overview of the agreement and resolution.
Thank you. This item on our agenda concerns the original limited partnership agreement as modified. The board reviewed it and approved it on September 20th, 2023. And today the board will be voting on the proposed amendments. We're fortunate enough to have board member McDaniel here with us today, who's far more familiar with the details of that agreement and why the changes are required at this time. And he's agreed to get into the details. The one thing I wanted to mention was the board members have all seen the proposed changes and have had an opportunity to be briefed. And before this time, the DASNY board has seen the proposed amendments and approved. The Division of the Budget has also seen them and approved, and the Public Policy Committee as well. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Baldwin. Appreciate that. As you mentioned, the first limited partnership agreement was passed in September timeframe, and that partnership agreement, it anticipated equity investors in the partnership. We knew there'll need to be amended along the way, and this is just an amendment along that transaction. Since that period of time, the markets have changed quite a bit. The interest rate environment has gone from 3% on prime to 8.5%, 8.25%, I guess today. Market rates have gone up. The equity markets in cannabis space have also become much more difficult than they were a year to 18 months ago, partly because of national settling, if you will, of wholesale prices in cannabis, but also just the equity investors seem to be waiting to see how different states shake out, including New York, but not exclusively New York. So we went down the journey of identifying investors. We found that the best way for us to go would be using a accredited investor instead of an equity investor. And so this LPA change is to change the structure of the LPA to make us available to accept a accredited investor. Those accredited investor documents would be brought it before the Public Policy Committee and the board for approval. This is just a step along that journey so that we are closer than we have been to securing the funding. We still have a few more steps to go, and this is one step along the way. The major change here is that the investment from the state, instead of being a pure equity investment, is now buying a debenture, which is a form of debt investment. This allows us to have a platform for our next stages. This may not be the last time we visit the LPA. If we get additional investors who need different criteria, we'll bring those to the board. But this is the next step we need to take along the way from the investment perspective.
Thank you.
Sure.
I know you were wearing your DASNY hat when you made that statement.
Yes.
And I know as we consider the resolution, there'll be an opportunity to recuse the vote.
Just formally, I will recuse myself from this vote.
Yes.
Again, DASNY is, legislative perspective, is facilitating the state's investment into the fund.
No comments?
I have no further comments.
Okay, then I am going to ask you, ma'am, please have a motion to consider resolution number 2023-20, resolution to approve amendments to the limited partnership agreement between the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York and Social Equity Impact Ventures General Partnership 1 LLC. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Perry, okay. And before we begin, if you would like, is there anybody that's going to recuse themselves from this vote?
I'm
Okay.
abstaining
Oh,
from
you're,
this vote.
okay, you're just abstaining. Okay. Therefore, I will ask if there are any questions or additional discussion regarding the LPA. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Member Garcia,
Aye.
Dr. Gilbert Jenkins,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
and I vote in the affirmative as well. The motion to approve resolution number 2023-03, the amended limited partnership agreement for the Social Equity Fund carries. Now we'll move on to our next order of business. May I please have a motion to consider resolution number 2023-21, directing the Office of Cannabis Management to file for adoption certain emergency violations, hearings, and enforcement regulations.
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I'll now ask either our executive director, it's gonna be Linda, I'm sorry, okay. Our general counsel, Linda Baldwin, to provide an overview of this resolution and the emergency regulations, please.
Thank you, Chair. Last board meeting, Chris Alexander gave a great context for the need for these emergency regulations. New legislation was put in place as a result of budget discussions signed by the governor and as well as the legislature. And as a result, we have a great new framework to enhance our regulatory authority, OCM's regulatory authority over unlicensed businesses that are selling cannabis. And so as a result, we had to develop new regulations, which today are being proposed as emergency regulations, because there has not been enough time to implement the full regulatory development process, and because there is an emergency requirement to begin to implement the new law right away. As a result, we distributed the proposed regulations. They've been posted, and we think that the emergency regulations will provide the office with sufficient details to know the proper context for inspecting unlicensed businesses, seizing product, providing notices of violation, orders to cease the unlawful conduct, notices of hearing, and also describes a procedure specific to those cases for the administration of those administrative hearings. So that's what the emergency regulation contains. It complements our existing emergency regulations relating to the violations, enforcement, and hearings, and happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Are there any questions or discussion?
Madam Chair, I just want to thank the Chris Alexander, as well as General Counsel and her team, for putting these regs together and all the work that's gone into making sure that we're addressing all the issues that we're seeing in the industry. It's, you know, there's a lot of challenges to starting something like we're doing here, and a lot of catching up that we have to do. But I'm certainly really appreciative of the thoughtfulness that the team is showing in drafting these emergency regulations, and hope that we can be successful in curbing that illicit activity out there.
Daniel?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to those comments. I agree with Member Garcia. Also want to thank the governor for the work that she did on this, the Assembly and the Senate did a lot of work on this, and Chris and his staff all sat a lot of three-way tables to try to get this complete. I think it's very important for us to move this forward, to get it clarified. I think emergency regulations is the way to do it.
Perfect. Dr. Gilbert Jenkins, did you have a comment as well?
No, I'm just agreeing with
Oh,
all that's been said.
okay. And so, yes, thank you. I do think this is exactly what we've all been waiting for, and we really appreciate all of the effort that's gone into it thus far. And I would like to ask, though, if you would share what are some of the things that the consumer should be looking for in the following the adoption of these regs, so that they know sort of what it looks like, what enforcement looks like, or what are some of the signals that visual signals that they should be looking for as they progress.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'll start. I think great question. Again, great work to the whole team working on this, and the legislature and staff and everybody involved. One of the biggest things I think that'll be distinguished, folks will recognize as we increase, again, enforcement activity is a similar designation as what we have now for our licensed shops, for the unlicensed shops. We have been seizing product for many months now. And folks have seen OCM enforcement teams out with the New York City Sheriff's Office, with local law enforcement across the state. But now the focus is on closing doors and continuing to alert the product of the public health consequences of consuming this untested, unsafe products. And so folks will see a lot more of those notices, public notices, that shops have been engaged in illicit activity, illicit cannabis has been seized, and that we are, basically closing down these businesses now.
And so there are warning stickers that sit in this building.
essentially.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any additional questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I just want to know, here in the western part of the state, government officials and elected officials have been warning about adulterated product which has fentanyl and other chemicals and is a completely unknown origin. And when people buy from illicit stores, even if they appear to be stores that they're open in a brick and mortar setting, they appear to be legitimate, they have no idea what they're buying. There's no state process, no state testing, no anything that they can rely on. So it should be a concern and a public health issue, especially as stores open throughout the state and people have an alternative, as our advertising has pointed out. And a number of people have pointed out that they've seen the new advertisements, and it's a personal safety issue. So I just wanted to add that and echo comments that we've heard from elected officials here in the western part of the state. Thank you.
Mr. Alexander.
Sure, if I could just quick follow up, I definitely appreciate the warnings, and folks have absolutely, we've been motivating folks significantly through the Why Buy Legal campaign to transition into the adult use market. I will just clarify for the record, we have not seen any reports of fentanyl in cannabis products, whether illicit or legal. We are, tuned in to see when that happens, and I know folks are significantly concerned about it, but we just haven't seen that yet. So I didn't want to move too forward without saying that we haven't seen that actually happen just yet.
Okay.
Can I just ask one quick question?
Yes.
how are local law enforcement agencies being brought up to speed on the new enforcement ability? I know that I've had a lot of conversations with our chief of police here in town in Morrisville about him feeling like his hands are tied. And so now that there is new teeth and new ability for enforcement outside of the city, how are we getting the word out, and how are the local law enforcement agencies learning about this?
Well, we've been fortunate over the last year and a half now to be building relationships with both law enforcement associations, sheriff associations, district attorneys associations, et cetera, across the state, so that we have a constant flow of communication now. We have, of course, the heavy work of doing that on the ground education of the new powers, but we're not starting from the beginning. You know, we've been having these conversations with local law enforcement entities, small and large, across the state. And so we'll just pick that right back up. We're also producing memos and fact sheets and resources for those law enforcement entities, and have invited some, along for training to, join us in enforcement actions so they can get trained up on how to seize products as well. So it'll be an ongoing effort, but we're open to any entities who are out there listening now who want to get engaged. They can reach out to our team at enforcement@ocm.ny.gov. That's enforcement@ocm.ny.gov if they want, some more direct information.
And I'm happy to help in the Central New York region if there's anything that I can do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Dr. Gilbert Jenkins,
Aye.
Ms. Garcia,
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Perry.
Aye.
Vote in the affirmative as well. The motion to approve resolution number 2023-21, directing the Office of Cannabis Management to file for adoption certain emergency violations, hearings, and enforcement regulations passes. Yes, the motion to approve passes, sorry. Now, our next order of business. May I please have a motion to approve, or to consider resolution number 2023-22, a resolution to approve a settlement agreement between Variscite New York 1 Incorporated and the Office of Cannabis Management. We have a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Now I'll ask our General Counsel, Linda Baldwin, if she would please provide an overview of this resolution.
Thank you. Some of you may remember that OCM was sued by an applicant for a card license, and that lawsuit was initiated in September 2022. As a result, an injunction was issued preventing the office from issuing licenses and the board from issuing licenses in a number 5 geographic regions in the state. We were successful in appealing that injunction late in March 2023. And as a result, all of the regions, the injunction was lifted except for one in the Finger Lakes. And now with the prospect of the litigation ongoing, the office has recommended that the litigation be settled, and the plaintiff has agreed to settlement so that we can move forward with the card program and issue licenses also in the Finger Lakes region as well. So the board has seen the confidential settlement agreement, which will be filed later this week, at which time it will become public. But one of the conditions of the settlement was to grant the plaintiff in that case, the one that had applied for a card license, an adult use license, when those licenses become available. And those were terms that we could agree upon in order to move forward with the full card program.
Are there any questions from board members? Discussion?
I'd like to state for the record, typically when you settle a lawsuit, it's because of a monetary decision. So it costs more to settle or to fight it, right? And I think we really felt like we have strong ground on this. However, it is impeding the ability of card licensees in that region. And so I'm just very pleased that the board is considering this today, fully supportive of it, not because I think that the lawsuit has a merit, but our card licensees need to be in the Finger Lakes as well, getting to work, getting on the ground, and getting, so I'm really appreciative let's move forward with this.
Yes. Any additional comments? Okay. I think I follow the same sentiment. I was just in Rochester about a week ago, and people are extremely eager to have the opportunity to participate in CARD, and I'm looking forward to it. So I'm really positive. I think this is a positive move, right direction. We'll be able to expand CARD across the entire state. So thank you. Thank you all for the work to get this done. Hearing no additional questions or comments, I'd like to call for the vote. Dr. Gilbert Jenkins,
Aye.
Ms. Garcia,
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel,
Aye.
Mr. Perry.
Aye.
Vote in the affirmative as well. The motion to approve resolution number 2023-22, resolution to approve a settlement agreement between Variscite New York One Incorporated and the Office of Cannabis Management carries. And that concludes our agenda for today. An important note on the next control board meeting, the time, location, and live stream link will be shared on cannabis.ny.gov in advance of the next control board meeting, as well a recording of today's meeting minutes, and a transcription will be posted on the site as well. So that concludes our business today. May I please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, so I'm gonna take that as a motion in a second.
Yes.
Thank you. So it is done. We are adjourned. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries and we are adjourned. Thank you very much.